Hello, everybody. It is 2:14, and there is a new severe thunderstorm warning for Nashville. As you can see on the big screen here, there's a pretty big thunderstorm complex that's up in Robertson County, up near Clarksville, and it is sinking to the southeast at about 25 miles an hour. Go ahead and put it on motion or in motion for you guys. A couple of things to note about this storm. You see this little faint area of radar returns right here at the edge of this polygon. And that's the outflow boundary. So all of the wind is being kind of shoved out of this storm. So if you're outside and you're looking up towards Clarksville, towards I-24, and you see the storm, and then you feel that fresh, cool breeze coming in, that is the severe thunderstorm. It is warning. The warning was for 60-mile-an-hour winds up in Robertson County, and some of the radar returns came back at 70 miles an hour. So they're concerned for a couple things. First of all, if you look at kind of this white line, that's as far as the storm should go in an hour from when I drew it, which was about 4 minutes ago. So about 3:15, this line should have sunk all the way pretty much into Fontenelle, Bells Bend, out to Goodlettsville. But the wind with this little outflow here should be pretty strong as it comes in. So if you're again wondering which direction it'll come from, it'll be come from the direction of Clarksville, and use I-24 as a guide as the direction the wind is coming from. That wind also could be pretty strong. So if you got any tents outside, any of God's frisbees, which are those trampolines, go ahead and secure those. If you've got those little umbrellas that you might put on your deck and your little patio thing, those can come up. So let's go ahead and get ready for a big burst of wind that comes down. I know the biggest question is, will this get all the way into downtown? It might. In fact, it probably will get there eventually. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this dance music here that we've got here. And we'll look at the text of the warning itself. The warning was issued at 2:11. It's now moving at 30 miles an hour, so it's moving a little bit faster than it was before. And the main hazard is damaging straight line winds. To be clear, there is not a tornado threat with this. The ingredients for a tornado are absent, so not to worry about that. But the storm is producing some very heavy rain, along with frequent cloud to ground lightning, the CG strikes, which you can kind of see with these little, kind of hard to see outside the little um, lightning stroke animations. There's these little dots that are in here that show CG lightning strikes. For example, this one right here dropped within 5 minutes ago. And so it's a pretty good lightning show. And it is moving to the southeast at 30 miles an hour again and it's one for 60-mile-an-hour winds. And so a couple of tools we can use here to figure out where this is going and where the worst winds are, to go ahead and stop the dance music here and split it and ask the radar, well, how fast are the winds up here? And so you got some 40, 59, 45-mile-an-hour winds up in this part of the storm that'll get probably into Bells Bend, Fontenelle. And then you've got some of the severe winds here that are running in the 50s. But it's important to know that now, these winds aren't always reaching the ground, but they also may not be perfectly sampled by the Weather Service's radar. So pretty clear that you're probably going to end up with a 60-mile-an-hour wind. Certainly up here in Bakers, up in Joelton, probably in Goodlettsville or Riverwalk. And that's why this storm was issued. They issue severe thunderstorm warnings not for lightning. That's not even a criteria. They issue them if there's going to be wind in excess of 58 miles an hour, or they issue them if there's going to be a hail that they think larger than 1 inch. This one is the wind variety. It's not a hail variety one. Oh, and there are also some CG lightning strikes. A couple other tools we got to look and see what's going on with this. Here's the Hopkinsville radar, which kind of takes the picture of it from the backside. And if you query it here, you get some winds that are running 58 miles an hour here, 54, and that might actually have a better look going into Coopertown. And this is the section of the storm that's going to try to get into the Bakers community, maybe even in the Goodlettsville and into the Rivergate community up in North Davidson County. So here's a storm again, and you can really see it on this radar image. Here's the little outflow boundary. This thing, of course, it constantly wants to put up that little text box, doesn't it? I'll put another radar, but that's the cold gust of wind that's going to be coming through, and is going to precede the heavy rain. And then I'm going to look at rainfall rates over here because I'm supposed to play softball tonight in Nashville, in East Nashville. And if this storm gets down there, it's not happening because that field drains like a swimming pool. It doesn't drain at all. And it won't be able to accept this much water and still hang on. So I'm going to go over here. Let's look at this guy. And I'm going to ask it for, that's just the general reflectivity. Yeah, this warning, you can see it really good here. This is that area of wind that's kind of shooting out ahead of the storm, and it's going to move here into Nashville. As far as ETAs go, I mean, I would think for downtown, I mean, I think the wind will be there before 3, but I think it's probably going to take until after 3 o'clock for the bulk of this rain to get in. And it might even weaken by the time it gets there. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. The Weather Service just said that they are also, I mean, not only are they worried about the winds that are in this storm, but they're also worried about the winds that are going to be out ahead of it. So go ahead and secure your tents and get all that stuff taken care of. And go for there. So I'm going to look at some of your questions here. Yeah, some guy said it wasn't that bad in Clarksville. Yeah, it wasn't that bad in Clarksville, but once it passed Clarksville, it got much worse. The winds were really blowing, and there were some returns that suggested there were 70-mile-an-hour winds in it. There's not another line behind this one. In fact, if you looked at the forecast blog this morning, there was even a debate as to whether or not this storm is ever going to happen at all. It didn't look like it was likely because the HRRR did not have this solution. It thought that we would be dry all day, but obviously that's not what happened. And we're feeding off just a ton of fuel here. I'll go ahead and stop this dance party and show you what I'm talking about. Although they just updated my software, so I'm never exactly sure where everything is right away. Yeah, so if we talk about, you've heard us talk about CAPE, which is that convective available potential energy, which is the fuel that keeps the storms going. The ML CAPE, the mixed layer CAPE, is pretty big here. For weather nerds, you'll appreciate this. You're looking at yeah, pretty good CAPE here, 2200, which is plenty, obviously, to sustain a big storm. And as you get down here into Nashville, looks like the CAPE drops off a little bit, but not very meaningfully. So I expect at least the rain will probably continue within this severe thunderstorm warning. Down in Franklin, there's a little tongue of higher CAPE as well. So these storms could sustain themselves pretty good. I would think at least the environment is conducive of it, although the forcing for it, which is the thing that made this front to begin with, might start to get displaced and might cause these to weaken. So we'll just have to wait and see. But for now, we got a severe thunderstorm warning here in Nashville. This thing is moving pretty slow and looking for 30 miles an hour, which I think will put into Nashville around after 3 o'clock is my guess. But again, that wind is already going to start to move here into Jolton here pretty soon. Here's where that wind is right now. I guess that gust front wind might be 30, 40 miles an hour by itself, and there could be a couple pockets of 60 to even 70-mile-an-hour winds in here as we go through the afternoon. Okay, let's see. Let's look at some questions. When will it end? These are all great questions. Probably this line will be out of here, I would guess, before the afternoon rush hour, early evening rush hour, which depending on your definition of when that begins. I know for me, it usually begins at 3:30. But for some of us, most people think it's from 4:30 to 6. And I think these storms probably should be out of here by tonight, certainly before sundown. But the rainfall that you're going to experience is going to vary pretty dramatically. This is unlike those old storms in the spring or in the fall where we get the front end and it rains all at once. And it's pretty easy to time them out and to predict how much you're going to get here. The rainfall intensity is going to vary, not dramatically, but it'll vary. So some people will get rained out, others won't. All right, let's go back to the fancy radar here. Yeah, and again, look at this. This is your area of severe winds right now. It's currently between Springfield and Coopertown, um, right here along Highway 49. If you've been up there, and let's go ahead and put it in motion. See these bright blues right up here, just south of Springfield. And it looks like the heaviest wind's going to roll into Bakers, and I would guess might even skirt as far south as Madison, but maybe not. It could also be that these strong winds are also in other parts of the line, but the radar can only see it very well at this angle. So that's why this entire line has been severe thunderstorm warned. Again, there's not a concern for a tornado. Um, yeah, is this why you've had a headache all day? I don't know you personally, Shiloh, so maybe. If it helps to blame it, then yes, this is why you've had a headache. It could be those pretty intense dew points that we've had today, which have been pretty tough. Go ahead and pull those up now. Let's see. What were we looking at? Look at our official observation site here off screen. And let's see my current conditions and my fancy new observations. Looks like right now at the airport, we're running 91 degrees temperature and 70 degrees as the dew point, which is a drop, which is not uncommon. Our dew points were running in the the low 70s. They've dropped 2 or 3 degrees in the last couple of hours. So the humidity has come down a little bit, but that is a frequent occurrence. And when we have this increase in temperature, and what happens is that super moist air, some of it gets lifted out because as the heat rises and the surface of the earth heats, it's going to mix out some of that drier and more moist air. So that temp drop is there, but that might be the cause of your headache at 70-degree dew point. It gives me one. But yeah, here's our pocket of severe winds still south of Springfield, right up here. And looks like it's going to try to make a run into the Bakers community, which is over by Millersville, which is technically in Davidson County. And oh, there you can see my desktop. Isn't that great? I'll show you those winds again. This is a new program, but it's a program we using more and more of, and this is going to show us the relative winds. So this kind of hotter red is where the most likely severe winds are. And here's that cool breeze of air that is being created by this thunderstorm. I'll go ahead and put that in motion for you. Then I'll switch to the base velocity. So it still looks like this is the area of the strongest winds. And again, it may be poorly sampled by the radar. And the winds may actually be inside this entire line, but this is pretty clear evidence of a severe thunderstorm for damaging straight line winds. Those would be non-tornado winds, guys, just straight line winds. And let's go back up to the Clarksville radar and look at it. Because in radar, you always have to be looking at everything at once. And yeah, there it is. So those are pretty strong winds, guys. Those are straight line winds, and the Clarksville radar had a better view of the previous screen. Weather Service just updated exactly what we're talking about here, saying that the worst part of the warned storm remains with these strongest winds that are going to come across northern Davidson County, and also into Robertson County. It's this area right in here, and it's going to move probably north of or into Jolton. It's then going to come into Bakers, go by Ridgeview Estates, Ivy Point, Gure Road, Bakers, and then over that Dry Creek Union Hill Road. If you've ever been down there, as Andrew says, there's lots of hollers in there. It's a pretty slopey place. And so the damaging straight line winds will come through there. And eventually they're going to roll into Goodlettsville, Rivergate, Madison, Skyline, Fontenelle, Chesapeake. That is what I'm reading here so far. And before the big winds come, you'll see a very gusty line of winds come in, which is evidenced by this little red strip across here. So there you go. Yep. We're still getting some lightning out of this one as well. So this isn't a stand under a tree and hope it blows over. One, the tree may fall down into you may get hit by lightning. Both are probably bad results for you. And the heaviest lightning, meaning most frequent, is right here in this little section that's coming into Cheatham County. And that part of the storm will probably be in Bells Bend, Fontenelle here in about a half hour or so. Frequent cloudy ground lightning. Some of these are positive strikes, which is to say that it's about 10% of lightning, and they're the especially powerful lightning strikes. Okay, let's go back to the other one because I like it better and I think it tells a better story. Go ahead and turn off storm relative velocity and look at the base velocity. This is the raw data. It doesn't factor in the motion of the storm. This is the velocity of the wind at the beam height, so right around 1,500 feet or so. And if you're looking at how strong these is, I mean, you got a 50-mile-an-hour wind here. You're running 54-mile-an-hour wind there. So these are, and again, these might not be perfectly sampled by the radar. So that's a pretty strong storm with damaging straight line winds. Again, these are non-tornado winds. These are non-tornado winds. We'll go ahead and turn on the Weather Service radar here and look at it instead of looking at it from Clarksville. Now that it's getting closer to Nashville, we'll turn on the Nashville radar and look for values in here. And you're looking at 40s and 50s. And I'm not sure this radar has the best view of it, but it's a pretty good storm. It's got a lot going for it in terms of wind. I'm not really sure it's going to stay as strong for as long, but we'll stay with you here at least for as long as the warning is going. But again, I know somebody is saying that there are sirens up in Robertson County. I know, and I don't know this, so I'm not speaking to it, but I've heard that Robertson County uses sirens for severe thunderstorms, just like they do with tornadoes. So just because you hear a siren doesn't necessarily mean tornado. And if they sounded them, that's fine. But there's not a tornado concern. I just want you to know that. Let's see. Somebody's asking about Putnam County. I have no idea what's going on in. If I knew, I would tell you. But as we say, we're too busy trying to get the weather right locally to try to go get it wrong somewhere else. Yeah, so this thing, I don't really know how long it's going to stay as strong as it has. If we go back earlier into the afternoon, I'll show you what I'm talking about. We had a ball of wind that was much stronger. So right here, we're looking at 2 o'clock. So this was a half hour ago, right? You had 60 to nearly 70-mile-an-hour winds right here, up here, just around 2 o'clock. And this is right around the time the decision to make the thunderstorm warning extend into Nashville was made. And then as we step forward into time, you still see that blue. Remember here, blue is bad. Blue means stronger winds. And right here, looking around 70, and that was at 2:02 p.m. and right now it's 2:33. So again, just about a half hour ago. Then as the storm has approached, you see the blue kind of disappear and then return right here. And that's again going to justify the warning and is the reason for the warning. And then as we go forward now, it's kind of washed away. The Weather Service kind of added a new polygon here up in Robertson, Sumner County to account for those because it looked like those winds are going to try to turn off and get into go past to our north. But right now, not seeing too much in terms of green stuff that has blue in the middle. It looks mostly just green, but we'll see. Again, The Weather Service radar here is going to start to get a bad angle to it. It's kind of like it's basic radar. If you've ever gone to a ball game and watched the guy with the radar gun try to figure out how fast the pitch was going, or if you've been stopped by a police officer, that he or she will have one of those radar guns, and if it gets the object that's coming at it straight on, it's going to get an accurate reading. But the more the object that it's measuring, the radar shoots off to the side, it's going to get not all of its forward momentum, and it's probably going to underestimate it. So that might be going on here. It might explain why some of these blues are going away. If you do get a report of a tree down, or you see a tree down or something, tag it to the Weather Service by tweeting the location and what you saw, hopefully with the picture, if you can do so safely, and put T-Spotter on it. And that way the Weather Service can see it, because the warnings are there to alert you that something with potential of damage is coming. It's not a promise of damage. I know some people think that warnings will have to, quote unquote, verify, like it's some sort of guarantee everybody's going to get it. And what it's saying is it looks like there's evidence to suggest that the straight line wind can cause damage. And so, maybe take care of your umbrellas, maybe take care of your trampolines. How about let's not be outside? And certainly if you're on the lakes, you might want to be side-eyeing the docks to get in, because, obviously you don't want to be in those really tough winds in this type of storm, not only for the lightning, but also for all the other reasons. Okay, let's remove the storm track because that's probably getting old. And we'll see, looks like a weakening. Weather Service just posted an update into our chat indicating storms have been weakening, but there remains damaging wind potential in northern Davidson and Robertson counties. So it's this little storm right in here. And we'll go ahead and put it on one screen. This little fella right up in here into Bakers, again, into Goodlettsville, Rivergate, Dry Creek, Skyline, Madison. I think if you're on the lake here at Old Hickory, you probably need to get off the lake immediately, because this line, let me stop the radar here. See this little line right here? These are really gusty winds that are coming out, probably going to run 30, 40 miles an hour. And here's the lake, Old Hickory Lake. Percy Priest down here. Those winds are probably coming into Percy Priest as well, although I can't promise how strong they'd be. Still bad times to be on the lake. Certainly if you're unaware, and with a bunch of rain and lightning coming in, it might be an issue. My softball game is right in here, so I'm a little worried that it's not going to happen at 5:30. It looks unlikely at this point. So if our commissioner is watching, let's hope this thing dissipates, but I'm not sure it will. It's a bad week for a softball tournament, y'all, because some of the other data we see is not good for for damaging fields with too much water. But I don't see anything that is making me throw my hat off and tear my shirt off and go, run around panicking. This looks pretty rough in terms of heavy rainfall, frequent lightning. And it looks like Will is finally going to come on here. Hey, look, it's Will. Will, please save us. Save this stream from just myself. It's not going
It's
great.
crazy when
It looks
these.
like the severe wind is nerfing.
The severe wind is climbing down, but it's crazy when these pop out so far ahead of the line. And I mean, I think there's just a little bit of rain and a little bit of wind moving through Jolton at the moment. So, you know, um, not much to do until this thing gets here. But of course, we have this obligation to go live. Um, so here we are, but not a lot going on. What are you seeing decline on the winds, David? I'm just kind of getting caught up.
Yeah, so I
I
was
see some.
telling probably the 6 or 7 people who are still watching this, hey everybody. What was happening is, and let me put this dance music off, turn the dance music off here, and turn on the de-alias base velocity. So up here, Will, near Springfield, there were 60 and 70-mile-an-hour wind markers, and those have since come down by about 30%. I'd say they're running right around 40 or 50 now. So the worst of the wind is coming into, we think, probably Baker's right around now, into Joelton, and will soon be Madison, Hendersonville. Whether it'll be severe at that point is a question. The other thing that Weather Service worried about, not necessarily worried about, but this little gust front right here, looks like you're probably going to get probably 30-mile-an-hour winds out in front of it, which can take your patio umbrella out, can put some tents down if you've got them up. And then there's just, there's cloud to ground lightning in this thing. There's heavy rain, and I'm openly concerned that my softball game right here is going to get rained out, because, I mean, you sneeze on that field, it rains out. So
we talked
that's
about
basically
that yesterday.
the summary.
That was a concern of yours, that the Lawyer League softball tournament was going to get rained out.
The biggest worry isn't so much the rain out itself, it's getting out there and then having to turn around in the traffic and try to come home after you find out that it's been rained out. That is the sum of all fears.
Well, I will show our camera from Goodlettsville here. And so you can see that we've got a pretty, if you look far to the west, now this camera faces north. So this is west over here on the, why can't that go full screen? I'm losing my mind here.
That's the First Baptist Church camera in Goodlettsville, isn't it?
Yeah, so this is First Baptist Church in Goodlettsville. This is facing north. And you can see a pretty good wall cloud or shelf cloud over here on the left.
Yeah, not a wall cloud. No.
Shelf cloud over here on the left. And you can see some really dark skies behind that. So that is something that we would expect as this storm comes down into the northern part of the county. So that's probably looking, I'm going to say, towards the Greenbrier storm that is just starting to move in.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, we need to get into YouTube and get rid of the Chinese mapper guy.
Yeah, I can do that. Hold on.
Comments.
Chinese mappers. All right, here I'm hiding. So, ladies and gentlemen, what I can tell you is that Andrew Leeper is a very important part of our team, as he's the one that's usually leading these YouTube lives. I forgot there were even comments coming up. I should be mindful of that. Chinese Mapper says, "No one care about America." I don't really care about America. Chinese Mappers coming from Pakistan, it looks like. And really only care about weather in Davidson and Williamson County. So the whole of America can take a back seat at the moment as we work a severe thunderstorm event moving from the northwest, moving southeast. This is what we call an I-24 special. Pretty classic setup for us. So severe winds, really a significant lightning event, but certainly severe winds moving southeast, and looks like
not so much anymore.
Look at the latest highest winds are going to just clip the northeast corner of the county. But David, I can see it's backed off those even 50 to 60 dBz or 50 to 60 knot pixels that we had a few scans ago.
Yeah. Daniel asked, what do we think about tornadoes? There are not going to be tornadoes with this, y'all. This line is missing almost everything.
Every ingredient. Yeah.
Like if a tornado was an omelet, we don't have any eggs. There's no chef. We have no utensils. We have heat, but we don't have a pan. So you can't make an omelet unless you have all of those things. And we only have one of them. So there's not going to be a tornado with this setup at all. That's not a concern. And if you only came on this stream to find out, is there going to be a tornado? The answer is there is not. And feel free to stop listening if that's your only concern. We are concerned, though, about what looks to be a weakening severe thunderstorm. The reason that this was warned, it was this big blob of blue right here. And that was, gosh, now 45 minutes ago. And as we bring it forward, you see the blue, reappears here south of Springfield, but then it disappears. Some of this might be related to the angle of the radar, but off screen, I've been looking at the other radars, and this thing just looks like it's weakening altogether. So this warning is supposed to continue until 3. It's 2:45 right now, at which point the Weather Service will continue to monitor and then determine whether or not they need to extend the warning or just let it expire. So that's what's
And
going
David,
on.
I brought up the environmental distribution with tornado parameters for the day. And if we spotlight on Davidson County here, you can see anything where this magenta line is inside these red bars means that we've got some tornado parameters. So really conclusive here that the tornadoes aren't a threat for us today. This is way more of a straight line wind, heavy rain event.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we want to talk a little bit about the flood potential, David? I know the Weather Prediction Center has us in a slight risk for heavy rain.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I can do that. Let me go ahead and just turn off this and then turn on how much rain it's been putting down here in the MRMS data.
I've also got the 24-hour QPF up here. And so pretty solidly in the 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch range.
Yeah, it's not very much.
Tennessee.
Well, if you turn my map back on, what we've got here is what the storm has actually produced the last couple of hours, and these are 3-hour totals. So in the last 3 hours, just south of Clarksville, radar estimates, between 1.5 and, I can't find anything that's more than 2 inches. And typically for Nashville, it would require about this much rain in an hour, and this is how much is falling in 3 hours. So we're going to be pretty far below flash flood potential. It's not caused any flooding up here at all today. So I think that when WPC put that excessive rainfall outlook out, they were worried that some of these storms would train. Sometimes they do that, where similar to what happened in St. Louis. And if you haven't seen what happened in St. Louis, just go to Twitter and search St. Louis. They had a tremendous amount of rainfall overnight, similar to events we've had here last year, where the rainfall didn't stop. I was talking to a firefighter buddy of mine in Belleville, Illinois, which is on the other side of the river of St. Louis, and he was saying they were busy all night. If you go northwest of St. Louis, you'll see that they had 12, 13, 14-inch totals in a 12-hour period, which is crazy. That is similar to that Waverly flood event that we had last year or 2 years ago, or last year, I guess. And that's what the concern was today. Was that area going to shift? The concern is mostly up in Kentucky, but they were worried that some of that heavy rainfall would shift here, and that's not what's happening. It's plainly not happening. I'm not concerned about it. Weather Service isn't concerned about it right now. That was a forecast, but it looks like just most of the rain has only been producing about 1.6 inches every 3 hours, which is way below what we would need to cause a flash flooding incident. So I think we're probably good to go to at least alleviate that concern. So no tornado concern and not a flash flood concern. And then I wanted to look at the some of the lightning to see if the lightning activity has continued. And the lightning frequency has come down. And that's a good sign that the storms are weakening. When we're producing less lightning, the updrafty part of the storm that's strengthening it isn't capable of producing as much lightning as it was before when the updraft was more intense, which would tend to suggest that the storms are weakening, and there's clear evidence of that. But right now we've got that gust front that's already across Bell's Bend. It's come through Fontenelle. It's at Skyline now, and if you're outside, you'll feel that cool breeze coming in from the northwest, and it'll push into the city here as we speak, into Madison and East Nashville, into Germantown, Bordeaux, Bell's Bend. All y'all are going to get that nice cool breeze of air, and then there should be some rain behind it. But this thing, frankly, doesn't look like it's going to need to be extended as a warning. And it looks like they're going to go ahead and cancel the warning. Weather Service sees it. They're on top of it as usual. And it looks like with the weakening trend continuing, they're going to cancel both warnings shortly and issue advisories. So, to recap, the reason for that severe thunderstorm warning was that pocket of 65 to 70 mile an hour winds that was in Robertson County that was coming into Davidson County north of downtown. As it dropped closer to us, it weakened and then got stronger again, and now it has weakened, and frankly, it is fizzling in terms of it having potential to create severe winds. So with that being the case, the severe thunderstorm warning's been canceled for Nashville and is going to be replaced with some advisories. So I would say it's probably enough to get that patio umbrella up out. It's probably enough to flip a trampoline if it's untethered or unsecured. And it looks like there is going to be some rain coming in here. That may rain you out, but looks like the storm's weakening. So the severe thunderstorm warning has been canceled. So I guess there's really nothing else for us to do other than figure out how to block the guy who's trolling our comments on YouTube. So
Well,
yeah,
good deal.
Will, you got anything else?
Man, I got nothing. We'll go ahead and turn it off, and we'll keep the studio warm while we watch this rain drift southeast. And if it pulses back up, we get another warning. We'll be right back. But for now, we'll go ahead and end things, and appreciate all, well, I don't know, 500 or so of y'all that have watched today. Go to the website, buy our merch.
Or not.
Thanks, David.
Yeah.